Good evening, students. Uh, this is pathology for BSc Nursing second year students, and the chapter is gastrointestinal system. Here we have discussed the tumors of small and large intestine. Part first we have discussed, in which we have discussed about the non-neoplastic polyps and neoplastic polyps. In neoplastic polyps up to bilious adenoma we have discussed. Now today we are going to discuss about the malignant lesions. So, malignant tumors of malignant lesions. This was the colorectal carcinoma. I already explained that it will arise from the colon and rectal area cancer, and these are mostly in adenocarcinomas in nature, and they will have polyps, and signs and symptoms are rarely very earlier, can be cured by resections, and peak incidence 60 to 70%. Then 50% of years of age will have 20% this type of disease. Then etiology. Etiology are the environmental and dietary factors have been implicated. Dietary factors are that predispose to carcinoma are low content of unabsorbable vegetable fibers, and a high content of refined carbohydrate diet, a high fat content as from the meat, then decreased intake of proliferative micronutrients, example vitamin A, C and E. So what are the dietary factors that will cause the disease? Are the low fat content will be there, low content of vegetable fiber, then high content of refined carbohydrate diet, and a high fat content, and decreased intake of protein, protective micronutrients like vitamin A, C and E. Morphologically, we see the colorectal carcinoma, malignant one. The morphology, the location of carcinoma are cecum and ascending colon 25%, rectum and sigmoid colon 25%, descending colon 25%, and the rest is scattered elsewhere in the colon. Then the tumors is in the, if it is in proximal colon, then they will tend to grow as polypoid fungating masses, and obstruction will be uncommon. In distal colon, if they are there, then they will be tend to be annular and circling lesions that will produce the napkin ring constrictions of the bowel. These margins of napkin rings are heaved up and beaded with firm central ulceration. Both the forms penetrate the bowel wall to produce the serosal or subserosal firm masses. The circumferential growth around the bowel wall results in stricture formation. Microscopically, if we will talk, then these features are those of adenocarcinoma, and these are which may form the well differentiated to anaplastic. They may be well differentiated then to anaplastic also. They will show the pattern of growth. They will show. Then many tumors produce mucin. The many tumors are if seen, they will produce mucin also, which worsens the prognosis. And 10% of tumors show foci of neuroendocrine differentiation. In some tumor cells, the signet ring appearance is also seen. Spread of tumors. The spread of tumors can be here is the hematogenous, which goes to liver, lung and bones. Lymphatic involves mesenteric lymph node going to para-aortic lymph node to cisternic ilia and may involve the supraocular lymph node. And transcoelomic spread may involve the peritoneum and then to ovaries, thus forming the Kuchenberg tumors. Then they will spread like this. Then the next is carcinoid tumor. The carcinoid tumor, the tumor of neuroendocrine cells are called as carcinoids. So if the neuroendocrine cells are having tumors, so they are will called as the carcinoid tumors. And neuroendocrine cells are normally dispersed along the length of the GI tract only. It will be the spreading in the GI tract, mucosa only, lungs, pancreas, biliary tract. So they are specialized cells that secrete the hormones. About 60 to 80% arise in the tip of appendix 10 to 20% in the terminal ileum, remaining in the rest of the gut, can occur at any age. Peak incidence is 6 decades of life. And appendiceal and rectal carcinoid rarely metastasize, even if they become quite large. Appendiceal and rectal carcinoid rarely metastasize means they will not spread their origin to the other area. They will become quite large at a whole. About 90% of gastric, ileal and colonic carcinoid they spread to lymph node and distant sites at diagnosis. Then, the cells of carcinoid tumor can be able to synthesize and secrete a variety of hormonal products. They will cause the problem in the tumors. Means they will have the carcinoid tumor synthesizing variety, and that will cause disturbance in the hormones. The cells of the origin of carcinoid is functionally uncommon and uncommitted gut endocrine cell that undergo differentiation during the tumorigenesis. Means the cells of origin of carcinoid will be having uncommitted gut endocrine cells, and that will go under the differentiation during tumorigenesis. Here you can see the colorectal carcinoma where polyps has been developed, cancer is there, polyps are also shown, and microscopic view also you can see. Then we'll see the morphology. Carcinoid tumor appearance you can see. Gross appearance is like this, and the microscopic appearance you can see is like this. Morphology. The most common site for gut carcinoid is appendix. Means in carcinoid tumors will be mainly occurring in the gut carcinoma in the appendix, and maybe solitary or multicentric in origin. They will have multiple centers in origin. In the appendix, they appear as bulbous swelling at the tip which obliterate the lumen. Means in the appendix region they will be appearing as bulbous swelling type at the tip, but that will be obliterate, making hole in the lumen area. Elsewhere in the gut, small yellow orange nodule will be present in the submucosa. Overlying mucosa may be normal or ulcerated. The submucosal layer where the yellow orange nodule is present in the gut, that may be normal or having ulcers, and tumor is acceding firm to the intestine or fibrosis. Microscopic examination show neoplastic cells from islands, trabecular glands or sheets. Then let's see the clinical manifestation. The clinical manifestation will be the tumors of intestine and small intestine and large intestine will be changes in bowel habits like diarrhea, constipation, sensation of incomplete rectal emptying. Then many patients will have asymptomatic for a long time, then black, tarry stools secondary to tumor lesions, necrosis of the intestinal lining, then anemia secondary to increased tumor growth needs, then bleeding results from necrosis and ulceration of mucosa, abdominal aching, pressure or cramp secondary to pressure from tumor, then weakness, fatigue, anorexia, weight loss secondary to increased tumor growth need, and vomiting as disease progress leading to possible obstruction. Diagnostic methods which we can see are the digital rectal examination which reveals mass, hemoccult test detects blood in stool, proctoscopy and sigmoidoscopy reveals tumor mass, then colonoscopy will reveal the tumor location, barium X-ray, and then carcinoembryonic antigen may be elevated. So these are the diagnostic tests which we need to do. Now we have discussed the tumors of the small intestine and the stomach. Let's see some pictures related to it. Firstly, the cancers of stomach. You can see this is the part of stomach only. A history of smoking or alcoholism is often present in the patient. with esophageal squamous carcinoma is seen, while a history of Barrett esophagus precedes development of esophageal adenocarcinoma in many cases. It is due to the esophageal cancer only. It's a part of tumors of stomach only after oral mucosa. So here what happens? History of Barrett esophagus precedence will be seen in development of esophageal carcinoma in many cases, and ill-defined mass at the gastroesophageal junction will be produced, which caused the mucosal ulceration and irregularity, which led to the clinical symptoms of pain and difficulty in swallowing. So dysphagia will occur, pain will be there, mucosal ulceration will cause the irregularity also. Then you can see this, it's quite red in color. This is a more typical acute gastritis with a diffusely hyperemic gastric mucosa. Means inflammation of gastric cavity is there with gastric mucosa present, very reddish in color. There are many causes for the acute gastritis, that can be alcoholism, drug infection, etc. Then this is the normal appearance of the stomach. You can see having greater curvature. Esophagus will be at the left. In the fundus can be seen with lesser curvature. Just beyond the antrum is the polyrus emptying into the first portion of duodenum as at the lower right. The normal appearance of the gastric fundus on upper GI endoscopy is shown here below at the left, with normal duodenal appearance at the right. Some of the small intestine cancers you can see here. You can see the diagram. Seen here, the arrow is seen here, a loop of bowel attached via mesentery. Note that the extent of prominent blue mesenteric veins, the arteries run in the same location. Here the arteries also run, and mesenteric prominent blue stains are shown here. Mesenteric veins are there, and arteries also run in the same location. There is an extensive anastomosis, means there will be joining of arterial blood supply to the bowel, making it more difficult to the interact. Also, they will cause the dead and decaying production, will cause the blockage, and also the extensive venous dish is incorporated into the portal venous system heading to the liver. Then the next thing you can observe in the image is the sessile only. This is a normal appearance of small intestine mucosa with long villi that have occasional goblet cells, and the villi provide a range of large area for digestion and absorption. Villi are the villus formation there and sessile in nature, with a height of 2 to 3 cm in length. Then this is the small intestine. The neoplasm of the small intestine are uncommon. Benign tumors can include leiomyomas, fibromas, neurofibromas, lipomas. Seen here at the iliocacal wall. At the iliocacal wall, we can see is another tumor which has a faint yellowish color. This portion at the iliocacal wall. This is the carcinoid tumor. This we have dealt just now. The carcinoid tumor. Most benign tumors are incidental submucosal lesions, though they rarely can be large enough to obstruct the lumen. Carcinoid tumors are not that much. Carcinoid tumors are that much harmful, but the benign tumors, which are incidental to submucosal lesions, rarely they can be obstructing the lumen. Carcinoid tumor. There, a carcinoid tumor is seen here to be a discrete, though not encapsulated, mass of multiple nests of small blue cells in the submucosa. Here you can see in the diagram the mass of cells are there, blue cells are there, and they will form a nest, but they are encapsulated, not having any capsules. covering. Then if we see the higher magnification, this was not at the higher magnification, these were the smalls only, but when they are highly magnified, we can see at high magnification the nests of carcinoid tumor which have been formed are typically endocrine appearance with small cell rounding, having small round nuclei and pink to the pale blue cytoplasm. Rarely a malignant carcinoid tumor can occur as a large bulky mass. Metastasis carcinoid to the liver can rarely result in the carcinoid syndrome. Then the most common neoplasm in small bowel is the neoplasm form. Its metastasis, as seen here, means it will spread to the other organ near also, will increase in size. Primary signs are often from nearby colon and ovary, pancreas and stomach. Then you can see this diagram. Here the adenocarcinoma arose in the ampulla of Vater. Primary small intestine carcinomas are very rare, but the majority of those that do occur arise in the region of ampulla, where they may become symptomatic through biology or pancreatic duct or obstruction, and the appearance of such a mass on esophagogastroduodenoscopy is seen below. And following the placement of stent for drainage is also there. This is the leiomyosarcoma. Leiomyosarcoma of small bowel. As with the sarcoma in general, this one is a big and bad. Sarcomas are uncommon at this site but must be distinguished from other types of neoplasm. So here the chapter ends. Thank you, class.